everyone, and welcome to another season of Dead Money Sports. I'm your host, Jesse Flynn. Well, we're back for the NFL and college football season. Got plenty of content planned for the whole entire year, so be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming content. But as we're heading into the start of the NFL season, it's time to get those preseason future bets in. So Dead Money Sports has got 3 episodes for our future show. The first one's going to be our NFL awards show, followed by the NFL stat leaders, and then finally the NFL win totals along with the division winners, conference winners, and who Dead Money Sports likes to win the Super Bowl. So we've got a lot of stuff to go over the next few episodes leading up to the season, and then hopefully you'll subscribe so you get access to all of the upcoming regular season content like the NFL contest show, the right number prop show, and the game day menu show, which will be available on deadmoneysports.com exclusively. So be sure to go over there and sign up to get access to all of that other content. But now we've got the NFL futures. This episode is the NFL awards show. So we're going to be going through the Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year awards, the Comeback Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, the Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year awards, and then finally, who we like to win the MVP. So there's a lot to go over. No sense in waiting around. Let's just jump right into it because I'm super excited to get into this NFL content and get this season started. So first up, we're going to go with the Defensive Rookie of the Year candidates. And for these, I've got 3 picks. Make sure to shop around for the odds. I know you hear that a lot, but in just researching the numbers for these bets, there were some that were, 15-point difference where, you're talking about if you bet $100, that's $1,500 extra you could win, if these bets end up cashing. So be sure to shop around, particularly if you have access to multiple sports books in your jurisdiction. So it definitely pays to look around. But starting off with the Defensive Rookie of the Year candidates, my first pick and a long shot is Mazie Smith, the defensive lineman out of Michigan, drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. I think he's got a really good opportunity here because when you've got the kind of skill position players surrounding him, like in Micah Parsons, and you've got Diggs in the back, in the secondary, Vander Esch. You've got guys who are, going to, get the attention of the offense, and it's going to leave him an opportunity to show himself. And, part of these awards are, the success of the team as a whole. And I have, good predictions on the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're going to have a successful season this year. So I could certainly see him garnering attention. And he's going off at around 50-1. So, with those kind of odds, it's worth a little small little bet on him. It doesn't hurt if he doesn't win. But if he does win, you're going to end up with a really nice payout. And I think he's in an ideal situation with offenses having to factor for someone like Micah Parsons and leaving him in one-on-one matchups. And, when he was at the University of Michigan, he was a pretty dominant force there when he's been in what you would consider an NFL system under Harbaugh. So I really like him. Harbaugh liked him, and I think he's in a good spot in Dallas. So the first guy is going to be Mazie Smith at 50-1. So next up is going to be Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback out of Penn State, drafted to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, if you follow football, you know the name. He's got a great pedigree with his father, who was a great Steeler for all those years. He's the kind of player that fits the mold that Tomlin wants in Pittsburgh. I think he's going to, benefit again, just like Mazie Smith, of being surrounded by high caliber defensive players and guys like TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Minka Fitzpatrick. These guys are going to create opportunities for the other players by how good they are and the attention that offenses have to play to these guys or have to pay to these guys. And the kind of disruption that somebody like a TJ Watt creates always allows the other players on defense to make plays. And I really think Joey Porter could certainly benefit from that. He's going off at 30-1 to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. So again, another nice payout with a little investment if you want to throw some money down on it. Again, should be a starter right out of the gate. Gonna play well in the system that they have in Pittsburgh. He's the kind of player they want in Pittsburgh. And I just like his odds, and I like his pedigree, having been in a professional situation with his father as a child all of his life. He knows what's expected when you step inside those doors. And he's, he was in the Steelers locker room as a child. So he knows Tomlin. Tomlin knows him. They have a relationship that goes back years and years and years. And I just think he fell into another ideal situation, and I believe he could have success right out of the gate. So at 30-1, Joey Porter is another guy I like to maybe win the Defensive Rookie of the Year. My final pick and my favorite to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year is Christian Gonzalez, cornerback, drafted by the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick, he seems to get the best out of his defensive secondary players. This has been something that he's always done as a head coach. If you look back at his career, some of the best coaching and some of the key players in his winning teams were the players in the secondary. And a lot of these guys were not what you would call household names, but he understands the game of football and he understands how to get the best out of them. He coaches up that particular unit probably better than any other unit on the defense. And I think Christian Gonzalez is going to benefit from it. We've already seen flashes of how good he could be in his few little games or plays in the preseason. So I really like it. It's a good situation. Again, another great set of coaches for this young player to learn from. Now the odds for Christian Gonzalez, the best I found were 10-1. So obviously the bookmakers are also seeing it this way because he's not, a long shot. But I just like that situation. We've seen other players in New England benefit from being in that system and being coached by Bill Belichick and his staff. So I think Christian Gonzalez could also benefit from it and turn out to have a really successful career in New England, starting with his rookie season and winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year at 10-1. So now moving on to the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. I have another 3 picks for this one as well. My first pick, the lowest odds, but also the lowest out of the 3 that I really like, is CJ Stroud. He's going off at about 10-1 to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. And I think out of the 3 quarterbacks of Bryce Young, Richardson, and Stroud, I think Stroud will have the most success, at least in his first season. Now, yes, he's got DeMeco Ryans, who is a rookie head coach, but he's a defensive coordinator. So the defense of Houston should take a few steps forward. They weren't horrible last year. They should get a lot better this year. But also, CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans will probably have a better overall season than the Carolina Panthers or the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I think Richardson has a higher ceiling overall. I think after he gets a couple of years under his belt and Indy gets better, he might be the better prospect out of those 3. But as of right now, I think Stroud, could play the entire season, put up some pretty decent numbers for being a rookie quarterback, have a mediocre win-loss record as a rookie quarterback with a first-year head coach. And I think that could be enough to garner the votes for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So my first pick, or actually my lowest pick, is CJ Stroud at 10-1. Now, the next guy that I like is Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC, drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. Made the papers earlier this year for being out speeding. Need to take it easy when you're on the roads out there, all right? Don't get yourself in any trouble or worse. You look at Henry Ruggs, all right? But anyway, I think he's going to be a very good wide receiver. Again, a player that is falling into a very good situation because you've got arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL in Justin Jefferson lining up on the other side. So he's automatically going to get the attention of the defense, and that's going to leave Addison, with more opportunities to make plays, get receptions and attempts. You've also got, Hawkinson in the mix. So the Vikings, I also have high expectations for them this year, and I also have high expectations for Kirk Cousins. I just think the offense is going to take another step forward this season, and that could also garner extra attention for Addison and, propel him up the ranks of the potential offensive rookie of the year candidates in this situation. Again, because he should get plenty of attempts, plenty of looks, as the defense is, automatically going to focus on Justin Jefferson. And going off at around, I believe, 26-1, Jordan Addison is for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So good numbers, decent payout if he does win. And, when you see wide receivers and running backs, but wide receivers especially, are able to transition from the college game to the professional game very quickly because they need to know their routes and they need to catch the ball. And, they've been already doing that pretty well already. So it's not a hard transition like a quarterback or even a running back who has to learn all the blocking schemes, receiving and rushing. So they can easily transition from college to pro. I think Addison can do that again this year. Going to benefit from being on a very good offense. And at 26-1, I like his odds. So give me Jordan Addison as another candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, my number one pick, my favorite, for Offensive Rookie of the Year is Quentin Johnson out of TCU, drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers. Another player that's falling into a situation where he can become a contributor day one. He's got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, all getting attention from the defense. If he's going to be that number 3 slot receiver, he could certainly see a lot of balls coming his way, have a lot of chances for scoring attempts, and really make a difference in this team. Obviously Justin Herbert, pretty good quarterback, keeps getting better every season. I expect big things from him this year. I also expect big things from the Chargers as an overall team. And again, when you're winning, voters tend to recognize you. And if Quentin Johnson can contribute to a winning team in the Chargers, he's going to certainly draw attention for the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. And he's going off at around 29-1. So pretty good payout, for a guy who was drafted in the first round, going to an offense that, throws the ball quite a bit. And we saw what he did for TCU last year, helping them get all the way to the national championship game. They eventually lost, but not because of him. And you saw how many big plays he made throughout that season. He's just a big wide receiver that's tough to tackle. He's not the fastest guy, doesn't have the greatest of hands, but he's a rookie. I believe he'll progress and get better now that he's going to have professional training around him. And I really like his opportunity to be a contributor at a high level right out of the gate. So my favorite to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year is Quentin Johnson at 29-1. So next up is the Comeback Player of the Year award. And we've got 3 selections. First off is Deshaun Watson at 60-1. He's listed as a candidate for the Comeback Player of the Year award. And I think Cleveland's going to have a decent year this year. I really like, the pieces that they have. Obviously, Watson having another year in the system, starting training camp with the team, being there from the get-go. They've got Chubb. They've added some pieces on defense. This is like a make-or-break year for Kevin Stefanski, and I think Watson will have a decent year. And if somehow the Browns can make it to the playoffs, Watson can certainly be considered a candidate for that Comeback Player of the Year award. And at 60-1, a little bet to see if potentially Cleveland can, turn things around with him at quarterback. He wasn't terrible in Houston. So let's see if he can actually do it again. And if he does, 60 to 1, I mean, that's a hell of a payout for a comeback player of the year award winner. So the first pick, the long shot for comeback player of the year, is going to be Deshaun Watson at 60 to 1. Next up, the next person that I like is TJ Watt. Now, oftentimes defensive players are not considered for this type of award. It often goes to offensive players just because the impact they have on the team. But TJ Watt is one of those few rare defensive players that is arguably the best player on his team and is a disruptor and can change games with his play. And it's 50 to 1 for him to win comeback player of the year. So if he has the kind of season that we're accustomed to having, if he doesn't miss any time with injuries, he could certainly be in the candidacy for defensive player of the year, which would definitely put him in place to win the comeback player of the year. And if for some reason he's not able, if he's not the best defensive player, they may give him that comeback player of the year as a substitute award. So again, 50 to 1, great odds, great player, in this situation, coming back from injury on a team that looks to be heading in an upwards trajectory as far as their win-loss record. That should also drive up his attention by the voters. And I just think TJ Watt's got a real opportunity here. So at 50 to 1, he's my second pick. And my top pick to win comeback player of the year is going to be Lamar Jackson. He's going off at around 25 to 1. This is a guy who was a former MVP. Obviously he's missed time at the end of the last 2 seasons due to injury. How his contract situation factored into his overall wanting to be out there, we'll never know. But we know now that Lamar Jackson got the payday that he wanted. Him and the Ravens are in a good place. They've got pieces coming in around him. I expect Baltimore to have a bounce back season, be back in the playoffs this year, potentially win their division. And if that all happens, you can certainly see Lamar Jackson winning that comeback player of the year award. And it's 25 to 1. I mean, 25 to 1 for a guy who, again, has been a league MVP, is a dynamic playmaker. He runs and passes. He's potentially, the main offensive catalyst of his team. So how could you not, at least put a little bit on him? And 25 to 1, again, nice payout for this type of bet. So my top pick for comeback player of the year is going to be Lamar Jackson. And so next up in the awards show is going to be coach of the year. And going with the 3 picks, the long shot or the lowest, who I think is going to win it, is going to be Arthur Smith, coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, he's going off at 12 to 1. So I think that's the 3rd lowest odds out of any coach on the list. So sportsbooks are expecting Atlanta to do well. I think Atlanta's going to do well. And if they do, Arthur Smith will definitely be a candidate for coach of the year, taking the Falcons from where they were in the last 2 seasons to making the playoffs and potentially winning the NFC South. And I think there's either liability in it or the sports books are seeing it somewhat like I am, because he's only going off at 12 to 1, which again is pretty low odds for this particular type of bet. But the top pick that I like to win coach of the year is going to be Brandon Staley, coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. He's going off at around 22 to 1. I really have high expectations for the Chargers this year. I have high expectations for a lot of their players, and I also have high expectations for the team overall. They were a playoff team last year, so their schedule is pretty difficult. Obviously they play in a very tough division with reigning champion Kansas City Chiefs, but I still think they are the type of team, they are so loaded on offense and defense. If they can just manage to stay healthy, they should have no problems making the playoffs this year. And I think they'll have a deep run into the playoffs as well. If they do that, I certainly can see Brendan Staley being named coach of the year at 22 to 1. I certainly like those odds. So my favorite to win coach of the year is going to be Brendan Staley.